Nothing is forever. Beatrix's 5U command grab has a small buff to it. Previously, the opponent was thrown quite a ways back, and Beatrix was only +4.
Great.
Maintaining your offense here was a little tricky, which is why you generally didn't see Beatrix's use this in the mid-screen. A savvy opponent could realize that, yeah, she's +4, but at a range where she couldn't 6XL you.
Great.
Otherwise, she'd get checked. So you were playing some RPS, granted in Beatrix's favor, but not the kind of offense that you want to have after you land a command throw. Of course, you couldn't force your turn with something like far medium or far heavy.
Great. Great.
But if you did this and the opponent chose to do nothing, well then you're just whiffing a normal in their face.
Great. Great.
So really not a great situation for Beatrix at all. You either had to gamble on the opponent being passive or trying to be proactive in order for you to effectively take your turn. Now the opponent is close enough where even if they don't press a button to expand their hurt box out, they have to block a 5 heavy.
Great.
So that's nice. Beatrix is able to at least enforce her turn here pretty consistently. If you're worried that you're watching a Beatrix patch video and the first thing you see is a buff, don't worry. Here come a slew of nerfs to this character now. Let's get started with her heavy fireball Star Chaser. Previously, it left the opponent grounded, meaning that she could use this as her optimal combo starter to save her other launching EX special moves in order to get another triple attack sequence before she launched the opponent. And now, Star Chaser will launch the opponent.
Great.
Meaning that instead of being able to use this to link into another grounded triple strike sequence before we start having to route around combo limit, Beatrix players will now just, always launch the opponent pretty much. This is a big nerf to her damage overall, especially in corner combos. This also slightly nerfs some of her mid-screen confirms.
Great.
With the launch back on this move now, you can no longer link that far light.
Great.
So this lost a lot of combo utility as well in mid-screen. It's still a combo launcher in the corner, but that's not what you wanted it to do in the previous patch. It is worth mentioning that it's not like this move is always going to launch the opponent. If you're spaced out far enough, the opponent will stay grounded. However, it's usually at ranges where you're not going to be able to actually get a follow-up to it. So pretty much this is a big nerf overall to Beatrix because she's losing the potential to keep the opponent grounded and then extend her combos with it. Side games and arcs has also made sure that on counter hit you can still get follow-ups by reducing the hit stun by 4 frames.
Great.
It's just there to make sure that this move functions as intended, lest, you're not able to convert off of this. One change I won't be able to demonstrate here is a change to Ultimate Embrasque Sword, where the final hit has more lateral knockback to prevent Beatrix from swapping sides with the opponent.
Great.
I had some vague recollection of seeing Beatrix players using this side swap, but I feel like I'm just inventing memories at this point. If anyone would give additional context into how this was done, please let us know. But from looking at the move out and how it's behaving now, I felt like any sort of side swap with this was very unintentional. Light Thunderbird has a couple of meaningful buffs, so let's go over them one by one. The startup travel speed has been increased, thus increasing the travel distance. That's an example of what it looked like before. This is the travel distance now. Quite farther. I wasn't able to put together a demonstration, but the downward hitbox of Thunderbird, once she starts doing the dive kick, has been expanded so that you can now no longer crouch underneath it. I think there were some characters where this would consistently whiff against them, and that was annoying for Beatrix pressure. Additionally, if you got a counter hit with the second part of the move, then the opponent was launched. And it was too far away to make anything work. Now, if the second hit is a counter hit, the opponent is put into a crouching state. Tantalizingly, you're either +4 or +5 in this situation, and you're spaced out at far light range, which is 6-frame startup. So you don't get any combos from this. You just get a pretty good advantageous position to run offense. They also increased the pushback on block to try and make it safer, but it's a fairly marginal change in my opinion. Just like before, if you're up close, you're going to be at close proximity normal range, so the opponent gets triple strike pressure on you. If you're able to space it out, though, then you should be consistently pushed farther away so the opponent has to use far range normals. But even then, at some spaces, you'll still get caught by close normals. It all kind of depends. I guess the idea here is to make it so that if you're able to space this pretty well, you can use it as a surprise jump-in tool, but I kind of don't see it filling that purpose. Let's take a look at Riding Free, which sees some power redistribution across its versions, as well as some nerfs. The light version has been nerfed. Previously on counter hit, you were +6, meaning that with perfect timing, you'd be able to link into a far light. So that was a nice way to tack on some extra damage, especially because your far light linked into Light Embrasque Sword. Now in this situation, you're only +2, meaning you get no combo follow-ups. It's just a poke that means you're able to run offense now. A pretty big nerf. To offset this nerf to the light version, the medium version sees a couple of buffs. The counter hit version used to launch the opponent, but you're basically only able to link a far light. If you tried mediums, you get far medium, and it wouldn't work. The medium version's hit stun on counter hit, though, has been buffed by 4 frames, so you're now actually able to link a close medium in this situation.
Great.
This is a nice compensation buff. If you want to have a fast, low poke, you go ahead and use the light version of Riding Free, but be aware that you're not going to get any sort of follow-ups to it. You're just trying to win neutral, get in, and start your offense. If you want to get a combo, you go for the slower medium version, and you get some pretty decent reward off of this one. Overall, I kind of like the power shift going on here. It gives a reason to use medium now. The heavy version of Riding Free has a couple of substantial nerfs. For starters, all 3 of the initial hits used to be lows. This meant that the opponent was trying to reposition themselves, and you caught them as they went from a down back to a back input after the first hit. You're able to open them up and get your combo going. Now, the second hit onward are all high attacks, so the opponent can block this standing. Watch Gran do it. So now you have to catch them with that first initial low hit, and if they are doing like some sort of fuzzy walkback stuff, if the first hit is blocked low, they're pretty much blocking the rest of this. The recovery has also been increased. Previously, this move was -6, meaning that most of the cast had to settle for a close medium to punish it. If you tried a close heavy, Beatrix was able to block. Now, the move has 2 more recovery frames, so instead of being -6, you're -8, which means that from a lot of characters, you're eating a close heavy punish. This is the difference in between a couple hundred, if not 1,000 points of damage for going for these Riding Frees. I think with these changes, EX Riding Free is now a combo tool instead of a fun little skip neutral option for Beatrix players. So, a pretty substantial nerf overall, but I think it's to one of the more toxic elements of her kit, so I think it's a good change. Ultimate in Riding Free has a similar change to the heavy version, whereas all the hits after the first one are now high hits. Previously, they were all lows. Just for demonstration's sake. As you can see, Gran's able to stand block the rest of it, so everything I said about the heavy version applies here as well. There is a buff to the ultimate version, though, and that is to the rebound effect you get from the wall bounce.
Great.
Gran pretty much stayed at full screen, meaning that you basically can only use this in the corner. And it's a significant increase in the rebound. You're almost able to reach with far medium and far heavy here, but not quite. I think this basically means that if you're about a little past half screen, you should be able to get a combo off of the opponent, using this as a substitution for like an EX Riding Free. Plus, when they rebound like that as well, you're going to have more ranges where you're able to get close normals instead of far normals. A nice little buff to compensate for some of the nerfs. Ever since Beatrix release, she's been a very strong character, and after the last round of nerfs to the previous top tiers, she's been a contender for the best character in the game, although I think most people, especially myself, would argue that Grimnir is the #1 of the previous patch. With these nerfs, I pretty safely can say that she's fallen out of like a top 5 spot. She's definitely not top 3 anymore. I still think she's good. She's lost some of the more frustrating elements of her kit to fight against, you know, like full screen, multiple hitting lows, and she's a little more risky for them when it comes to her EX, and she's lost damage from her Fireball Chaser, her Star Chaser, that is. But honestly, I still think she's good. She's still got some of those gorilla strengths. She's still able to rotate a lot of plus frame options, and she has some compensations here and there to the confirms that she can get. I think she's less frustrating to fight against, but you know, she's not as brain dead, if you will, as she was before. We'll see where she ends up falling in like the tier list and placements. I think that some people who are in it for the ride are probably hopping off, and we'll see what happens with the true Beatrix players, or the loyalists, I should say.